Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Couchman, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you today. We're going to dive straight into today's episode, so make sure you got your cup of tea, make sure you are ready to dive into today's words to live by.
Self-control means controlling the tongue. A quick retort can ruin everything. That is from Proverbs 13 verse 3.
Maybe just say it one more time.
Great.
Just do the Proverbs bit.
That is from Proverbs 13 verse 3.
Tilly, we're wrapping up the week.
I know, wow.
On the podcast. I have loved the episodes this week. I'm so excited. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, I just had a full revelation while we're talking.
It was a full holy moment.
I literally had a cry to Tilly about my issues with being envious, and then had a full moment where the Lord was just like, that's why, while we were talking. It was
very healing to witness it.
If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, go back, listen, recap on everything that went on. Proverbs 13 verse 3, self-control means controlling the tongue. A quick retort can ruin everything. What are your first thoughts on this, Tilly?
Sassiness.
Mm-hmm.
And that is probably describing myself.
Yeah.
No, I think it's such, because there's somewhere else where it's like your tongue is a weapon.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that the words we say can bring life or death.
Yeah.
And it is so easy to just say effortless thoughts that really can tear someone down and then stick with them.
Yeah.
For 5-10 years. Out of high school, a teacher might say something.
Yeah.
I feel like this verse needs to be plastered all over schools in my opinion.
I find, and this is kind of totally irrelevant, but I find that this verse really shows me how much we need to be intentional. I think often, even when I think back over the last week, how many times I've had to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Or you say something, particularly I think with people that you're close to.
It's always when you're very comfortable.
Yeah. I remember I was talking to one of my cousins the other day, and I said something and I meant it as a joke, but after sitting with it for 30 seconds, I was like, that could come across, and it's not intentional and it's not deliberate, but I think that you need to be careful, and I even, myself as well, that I am self-controlled in my tongue to think about things before we say it, to think, does this uplift and honor? Verses we've talked about earlier in this week in Tuesday's episode.
I was about to say, it ties in so closely.
Yeah. Just being how are we responding? Even little things. I've been in, situations where someone will say an offhanded comment. I'll have the confidence to not wear makeup for the day, and someone makes an offhanded comment being you look really tired today.
Are you sick?
No, but as much as it seemed like an offhanded, no one probably means anything by it. When you're someone that struggles with insecurity or anything
1,000%.
like that, those small things can make a huge difference.
I just remember being in year 6, and a girl thought it was hilarious the way that I ran, and she told me, and I stopped running.
But it happens all the time.
And how many times do we hear stories about,
my parents said this
or
once,
a teacher said this, or a boy in high school called me, overweight, and it has stuck with them for their whole lives.
Mm-hmm. I think that not only does this episode lean itself to being self-controlled in those things, but I also hope that if you're listening today and something has been said to you, there has been someone who hasn't been self-controlled, they haven't controlled their tongue, and someone has said things to you that just aren't true, I would encourage you out of this episode to really take it to the Lord if you haven't before. If there's things, whether it's about your identity, whether it's about your faith, whether it's about your appearance, whether it's about your skill or your intellect, whatever it is, take it to God. Be like, God, what do you truly think about this? Don't let the lack of self-control from someone else stop you from living in the fullness of what God has called you to be.
Definitely. And I find it really interesting where it says a quick retort can ruin everything. Not even just ruin a little bit of something, but everything. And you can build up such a great relationship with somebody, but if you say something that is harmful, that could undo an entire friendship. Husband and I could have a great date, and then I just might say something sassy at the end, and all of a sudden we're in an argument.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, we just had a great date, and then I had to go say something silly, and now we're fighting.
Literally. And I think that sometimes it's not even that what you need to say shouldn't be said. It's about how you go about it.
Yes.
And I think that's why self-control is so important.
You filter it out.
Because you filter it and you say it well and you take the time to hear.
And like weigh up what words you're going to choose and how you're going to approach it.
Yeah. And because I know that like I've had scenario where I said something in the middle of an argument with a friend and I didn't mean for it to come across as harshly as it did, or it was interpreted in a way that I didn't mean it to. But the way that it was interpreted made that person think that I just didn't like them, didn't care about them or anything at all. And what was so hard about that is to try and justify it and be like, that's not what I meant.
I'm so sorry.
Like, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intention. I was trying to explain this. And it is so much better to take the time to figure it out.
To say it properly.
And I think something that I've learnt that I wish I did better maybe in my early 20s was say like, hey, you know what? I just need a second to think about this. Or, hey, can I get back to you? Can we talk about this later?
Yeah, because I feel like we have to almost have an answer in that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's probably why we just say things. But we
Yeah.
haven't had the time or the chance to actually think it through.
But I think even what we were talking about, that, like in yesterday's episode, sometimes you need to take it to God and be like, God, how do I respond? Because to be honest, often I find those quick retorts are in moments of hurt, are in moments of disappointment, are in moments of frustration. And I know even, in that story that I was just sharing, it was in a moment of frustration. And so things, I'm sure you even have it with partners and family members and friends, you say things that you don't mean. And so I think having the knowledge that you have permission to say, hey, we're just going to park this for the moment.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it later. Or I'm going to call you later this week and we can unpack it. I think that it's such a gift and it is such a cool thing to be able to go, hey, I don't have the answer. Or, hey, can I get back to you? Because it really can ruin everything, even unintentionally. Even in a moment where you're just frustrated and you don't articulate yourself well. I think self-control on a big scale is important, but in the small moments as well. Self-control means controlling the tongue. A quick retort can ruin everything. Proverbs 13 verse 3. Sometimes we say things we definitely don't mean, and sometimes people say things to us that they did not mean either. How can we be people not only that have self-control when it comes to difficult moments, but also how do we make sure we take those things that people have said to us that maybe have ruined seasons of lives or friendships? How do we take that back to God? Sometimes it looks like praying or journaling. Sometimes it's going to look like having a conversation with that person and talking it through. But whatever it looks like, let's make sure that we are self-controlled in our responses, in the way we talk about things. And also, let's be self-controlled in the way that we run with the things that people have said about us. Let's make sure we take it back to God and get the truth that He says about us, not what people have said in a quick, unself-controlled moment. I cannot wait to dive even deeper into the Word of God with you next week. But until then, I pray you're able to find moments of joy.